Hello everyone, it's Jen. I'm back with another Halloween card this week. This time I'm featuring Spellcaster Witch by the Rabbit Hole Designs. I loved this sentiment, great friends are great, best friends are wicked. And I also really love the illustration of this witch and the little kitty cat. So I'm going to feature both of those on the card today. So I'm going to jump off with some Copic Coloring. So as always, if you're new to my channel, I list the Copic markers that I use to the left hand side. The marker to the top is the darkest, and then it works its way down to the lightest on the bottom to make it easy to follow along. So I'm doing a fair skin tone for our witch today. I'm using E11, E00, and E000. I wanted to do her stockings like they were see-through, so I colored her legs in the same flesh tone, but you could definitely color those as a colored fishnet stocking, which would also be really fun. So I wanted to keep her hair fairly light, so this E21 marker is a new color to me, so I wanted to try the combination with the darkest being E34 and the midtone being E53, and then I used that E21, and I felt like this is a really pretty, kind of like a dirty blonde hair color. So I was really happy with how that color turned out. I did bring back that darkest marker and the midtone a second time just because I felt like those darkest shadows really got pushed back, so I just wanted to bring some of those darker colors back in. So then I can move on to the black. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down a full coat of the C3. So this will just help lay a base so that I can get a better blend with those darker cool gray markers. So I'm going to color the kitty black, the fire pot, her shoes, and then the book that she's holding. So my darkest color is going to be the C7, and I'm just going to outline the cat and add a little shadow between his paw or his leg there at the front. And then I'm going to add that C7 around the rim of the cauldron and then down either side as well. For her shoes, the darkest shadows to the bottom and then to the back of the heel. And then for the book, I had the darkest shadow along the spine and behind her hand there. So once I get the C7 down, I'm going to blend that out with the C5. And I want the majority of the image to be colored with that midtone so that there's just a little bit of that darker color and then a little bit of the highlight, and that midtone really is the majority of what I'm coloring with. I did add a little bit of black to the mushroom stem. I didn't really know what color to color the mushroom. I didn't want it to be the standout object, so I kind of went with this black and then sort of like a brownie orange tone, and I felt like that way it was subtle on the card. I really wanted the witch to stand out as well as the little kitty. So you can see here I'm just pulling that C5 and that C3 in again a second time just to get a better blend there. And then I'm just going to move on to the white, and I'm just using C1 and the colorless blender here. I'm just going to do her collar and her cuffs on her dress and then the candle as well, and then adding just a little bit of that C1 into the eyes of the cat and our witch. For the orange, I'm using YR09, Y38, and Y23. So I'm going to use that for the pumpkin, the fire on the cauldron, and then I also colored one of the 3 books in the orange. Now, if I was to do this again, I think I would have colored the bottom book in the orange. I was trying to get that orange away from the pumpkin as much as possible, but when I was coloring it, I didn't realize that that middle book is the largest book, so I felt like it's a little off balance, but because the cat is going to sit a little bit in front of that, it wasn't worth redoing, and it looks just fine. But I think if I was to do it again, I would have colored that middle one black to kind of mirror the book that she's holding in her hand. So for the purple, I'm using one of my favorite purple 3-color combinations. So I'm using the V15, V12, and V01. And I do have a color map for you at the end of the video if you want to take a screenshot, or I'll also post it on my social media if you want to have a record of the colors I'm using. The orange and the green and the purple that I'm using are great for Halloween cards regardless of the images that you're using. So if you're looking for some 3-color combinations, these ones work really well. I had a ton of fun coloring up this little witch. I love the way she's drawn. It almost reminds me of the old Archie comics, or kind of that like 1950s really kind of cool vibe. I thought she was really unique, so I really wanted this stamp set, and I had a lot of fun with it. For the greens, I'm using YG17 as my darkest, YG03 as my midtone, and then YG21 as the lightest. I did add a bit of green to their eyes. At first I used the lightest color and then went back in with that midtone, the YG03, just to give a little bit of color to their eyes. And then I did bring in my black glaze pen for the eyes as well, and also my white gel pen here just to add a little detail. So now I'm going to start on the background. I'm using the Starry Sky stencil from Fawn, as well as this leftover piece of pattern paper from the Echo Park I Love Halloween 6x6 paper pad. I recently did a collaboration with Christy Marcotte with that paper pad, so I will link to that video in case you missed it and you want to see tons of cards made with one 6x6 paper pad for some Halloween inspiration. So for the stenciling that I'm going to do, I brought out my Make Art Station. I love this thing. It has the magnets, which I find really helps when you're using stencils. So I did add a little bit of purple tape to the side of my cardstock that I knew I wasn't going to be stenciling on, just so that that card didn't shift when I picked up the stencil. And then I added some magnets here just to keep everything in place. And this little tool is fantastic. It's one of those things, it's definitely not a needed tool in the craft room, but it's one that I'm really enjoying as just making life a bit easier. I used the Distressed Oxide in Wilted Violet to add some of the stars to my background, and then I'm just taking some of that ink and I'm going to create like a mist going up that right hand side of the card, and then I had it kind of creeping over to the left hand side at the top, kind of like the mist or the spell from the cauldron was kind of moving up and filling to the top of the ceiling there. So that pattern piece of paper I'm using with the checkered black and white, I kind of thought that that also had like that 1950s kind of tile floor vibe, so that's why I chose that one. It's also quite muted, so it kind of falls into the background of the card really easily, still allowing my images to really pop. I'm going to adhere everything down just with my liquid adhesive, so I'm not going to pop anything up. You definitely could. I think it would look really cute if you had the witch and the cat popped up on some foam tape. But for Halloween cards, I tend to make them mostly flat and really easy to mail. So I'm just going to have the kitty cat in front of the pile of books with the pumpkin and the candle, and then I'm going to adhere the witch so she's a little bit in front of that cauldron, reading her spell there, kind of looking at the cat and then having the mushroom over the cauldron. I did go ahead and color up some of these bubbles that come in the stamp set in a light green color, so I did that off screen. And I'm just going to have those floating up from the cauldron to the top of the card as well. So I did just play with placement a little bit. For the most part, I kept it from the smallest bubbles nearest the cauldron and then having them get bigger as they go towards the top, and then again kind of getting smaller as they reach the top of the card panel here. And then eventually I will trim off that little piece of this bubble here that I'm working on that's overhanging the card base once I get it on, well, my card panel, and I'll do that once I get it on to my card base. So for all the paper today, I'm using Accent Opaque 100 for coloring and for my panel. But for the card base, I recently got the 120 pound Accent Opaque, and this is really easy to purchase off of Amazon. I'll leave all the links down below. You can get it on Amazon USA and Amazon Canada, so I'll have both of those links, as well as links to all of the products. And these are affiliate links, which means if you choose to click on those and make a purchase, I will get a small commission, which is always greatly appreciated. I put what I make on those affiliate links back into my channel. So I decided after I stamped the sentiment Hocus Pocus that I would bring in the little spider from the stamp set, which is really cute. So I had that hanging down over the sentiment and then just used my Memento marker to create that little spider web line down to my spider. To add a little bit of something for some fun extras on this card, I went ahead and used my glossy accents on the bubbles. And I will add that to the eyes of the cat and the glasses of our witch, and that just gives a nice little glossy shine. I'm going to bring in my Spectrum Noir glitter pen here. This is the clear overlay. And I'm just going to add that to the fire pot and then the pumpkin and the books. And then I'm just going to add a few little highlights here on the cauldron, on the witch's dress and hat, and on the pumpkin as well. So let me know if you're still making Halloween cards or if you have moved on to something else. I'm about to get started on Christmas cards, which are my favorite cards of the year to make. So here's the color map for all the coloring today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I'll see you down in the comments below. Here's a couple videos to keep you busy till my next post. Until then, take care everyone. Have a fabulous day. Bye.